Hello everyone and welcome into the channel. My name is Brent and in today's video we're going to be doing a Merrill Edge update on all of the dividends, the buys, the sells, and the options premium that we received for the month of April 2022. It was a pretty exciting month. We were pretty active in the account as far as buys and sells. We also collected the most premium in a single month that we've collected throughout 2022. So in this video we're going to go over four areas. We're going to go over number one, the individual holdings that we hold over at Merrill Edge and their performance. Number two, the account performance. How does our account over on Merrill Edge compare to the main indexes? Number three, the activity. What did we buy? What did we sell? What dividends came in? What options did we perform on an account basis, account by account? And then number four, we're going to be doing a quick breakdown of the total premium per account, the dividends, and the final, account between March, which I just released. I uploaded it over to YouTube, forgot to release it, so I just released it a few hours ago. I probably should rename it to something a little bit flashier or something, but that is out there because, what's one month without the other month? So this will be the month of April recap, kind of go over these four holdings or four things here. So with that said, if you guys are brand new here to the channel, definitely subscribe, follow along. If you guys have any comments or questions for me, let me know. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get into number one, which is the holding portfolio, the holdings and their performance. Okay, so we've had a bit of a rough month, but so has everybody else, right? The whole market was down. It was pretty crazy and chaotic out there in the market in April. But our positions did change quite a bit. So what we have right now, we have about $2,000 in cash. Not a whole lot, but that's fine. We do have about $2,000, and I believe that's within the Roth IRA because we did fund the Roth IRA so far here in 2022 with $6,000. That's already in the account. We're slowly investing it as the market's kind of going down, so we're getting some really good opportunity that we haven't had in quite a while. And we have some options open at the moment. We have one option on the S&P. Well, we have three options on the S&P 500 with a strike price of $437. So far, we're up about $836 on this option here. We've collected about 35% of the premium if we were to buy it and close it out right now. But in this case, I am not worried about it. We have a strike price of $437. It's more than likely going to go ahead and just close or expire worthless, and I'll just kind of keep the premium. We have four options on Tattooed Chef at a strike price of $12.50. As you see in Tattooed Chef down here, it's plummeting to now $7.99. S&P 500 right now is at $412. So these strike prices are far away from where their current share price is trading at. VTI here, a strike price of $220. And the current price on VTI is $206. So yeah, we're about $14 away on that one as well. So all of these are well underway as far as getting appreciation. Some of these I just let them expire, then I just collect the full premium versus kind of buy them back early and kind of just pay. But we'll go over the process that I go through. And then the stocks in the account that we currently have right now, we have Apple, 17 shares of Apple. And these have gone down. So we have 17 shares of Apple, 39 shares of Facebook. The S&P 500, we have 387 shares of that one. We're very close to 400 shares of the S&P 500. Tattooed Chef, we have 417 shares. VU, we now have 0 shares of VU. We liquidated our VU shares. And then VTI, we have 218 shares and some fractional shares there. Now, how is this month's holdings different from last month? Well, I did do a snapshot of last month holding up on the screen now. So we can see here, Apple, I did cut Apple shares here. I reduced my Apple holding by, let's say, 25 shares. And that was in order to add to VTI. You can see here that in the past, I had 104 shares of VTI. I now have 218 shares here, so I did liquidate some Apple. I also removed Abbott from my portfolio. Abbott was removed from the portfolio, the equity. We'll see how it all kind of transfers around. Facebook, we have the exact same amount of shares of Facebook at 39. Facebook last month Oh, okay, never mind. Facebook was down 28% last month when we did this. They're currently down 35.34%, but they're a lot better off where they were like a couple days ago before earnings. After earnings, their share price did bounce back quite a bit. They are now upgraded, or they have been at a buy rating. So we're just going to continue to hold that one. This one's within the taxable count. So if I do need to tax harvest, sell off $3,000 and take some losses to reduce my taxes, by the end of the year, that'll be like my look at. I'll look at Facebook and say, hey, I could reduce my tax bill up to $3,000. What if I just sell a little bit of this at a loss? Because that would nullify some of the other capital gains that I have to pay for the options in the account. JetB completely liquidated out of that one. I had 2 shares. SPY, we can see that our SPY position went from 374 and some fractional shares to now 387 shares. And that's about 13 shares increase there within the month. Tattooed Chef, we went from 400 to 417. VU, we liquidated the 40 shares, which is now 0. And VTI, we went from 104 to now 218. And also we can kind of see that we did lose gain, losses in the market. We were up 1.89% in the total account here, unrealized capital gains. And now we are down roughly 7.77% from where we were just 1 month ago. So that is the current holdings and their individual performance of the account. Now we're going to go into the account performance. How did our account perform in comparison to the main indexes so far year to date? So here is the year to date performance. My portfolio is in the blue right there. My portfolio had actually been doing really well up until March, right? Or up until April. At the beginning of April, our portfolio had only lost roughly 0.89% so far in the market overall. We were down a smidge of a percent off all-time highs, while the S&P 500 was down roughly 4.6% off those all-time highs. Here we are at the very end of April. Our portfolio is now in the negative by roughly 7.12%, whereas the S&P 500 is down roughly 12.92%. If we go ahead and bring in the Dow Jones in here, we can see that our portfolio is still outperforming the Dow Jones. Dow Jones is one of the indexes that hasn't had as bad as performance as, say, the S&P, the NASDAQ. So we're I believe that we're doing much better than some of the other indexes out there. We can see the NASDAQ here down 21.16% versus our portfolio only down 7.12%. So we have the world index in there as well. So it's kind of interesting. So yeah, that's how we compare to the indexes year to date. And then down here, we can kind of see how are we allocated. We have barely anything in cash. Equities, we're basically fully invested between the market shares there. And if we take a look at our historical performance, we can see kind of where we are at January. At the very end of January, we had lost 1.9% in the portfolio. February, we had lost 3.64% by the end of the month. In March, we'd actually made a pretty good recovery. We had recovered all of our losses essentially. We had been down that smidge of negative 0.89, but then we had the month of April. In the month of April, we lost 6.28%. And the other indexes out there in comparison had actually lost quite a bit more. Let's see here. I can't display the S&P 500, but we already saw it kind of here. It doesn't show me month to date, obviously, because we are in May now, so the month to date wouldn't actually give me any data because now we're looking at data in May, which it doesn't exist. So that's how that one is. But the S&P 500, I believe, and we'll just take a look here. Look at the 1 month, and it's down 8.8%. So yeah, they're a little bit worse off versus our monthly negative 6.28. Not a whole lot, but still. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and jump into number 3, the activity by account. What did we buy? What did we sell? What dividends? And what options did we perform? So we're going to go ahead and jump into our taxable account. We're going to go ahead and start back in late March. Otherwise, the options that I kind of repurchased here may not make sense. So what we're going to go ahead and do is take a look here at March 21st. I had sold a call option at the strike price of 446. I had collected $3,283 in premium. And then here in April, now jumping over to April, right here is where it would have potentially made sense. I repurchased my call option. So I had sold the option for somebody else to buy it if the strike price or if the shares cross over 446 and say went into the 450s, I would have to sell my shares at 446. That never happened. At the time, the market began to pull back into the 430s. So those that option became cheaper to buy back. So I went ahead and closed out that option. I paid $1,201.95 to close out the option. I was able to keep my premium of $2,091.08. That was the premium that I had collected between that selling and buying back of the call option. I went ahead and lowered my strike price from 446 to 441, resold the call options at a strike price again of 441. I collected $2,668.04. That's right there. And then because I had sold those, I collected all that premium, right? So I purchased one share of the S&P 500 here at $435.95. And then waited a few days. The market began to pull back a bit more. I then purchased two additional shares of the S&P 500 with the premium at $430.99. And then the market had pulled back quite a bit then, so the premium became, those contracts became pretty cheap. So I went ahead and repurchased my contract back, and I paid $640.95 to close out that contract. So that netted me $2,027.09 between selling the option and then closing it out early. And then at that time, I had the extra equity. The share price had dropped down to the 420s. So I purchased four additional shares of the S&P 500 for $421.17. And at that time, again, I had no contracts open. So I went ahead and sold three additional contracts for a strike price. Now the market was beginning to fall down. Remember, it was at 421, right? That's where I had purchased it. I still wanted to sell the option above my strike price of 437. My cost basis is around 436, 437. So I sold at a strike price of 437. I collected $2,365 in premium, which is right there. And then with the equity that I had in the account, we can see here up towards the top, because the share price had begun to fall as much as they had, I went ahead and took the premium from the options that I had sold during the month and repurchased four additional shares at $418.04. And then we also see here that we also received a dividend from the S&P 500 for $512.20. So this is kind of the breakdown right here. We had our options where we sold that option in March, closed it out in April, netted $2,091. In April, we sold an option for $2,668.04, closed it out early for $640.95. Collected the difference there of $2,027, and then we do have an open contract right now to sell our shares at 437. Right now the S&P 500 is trading at a gap, so it's going to be a bit before the share price comes back up. We're well within safety right now, so I'm not at all worried that we're going to get our options assigned. If our options do get assigned, that's completely fine. I have no problem selling out my shares at $437. That's at my cost basis, and I've still netted enough premium that if my shares did return back there with the additional shares that I purchased, I'd be in the green by quite a bit. And the market's not going to go green for quite a while, as far as just, we're in the open oceans and we're out in the clear, right? So in total, in the month of April, we collected $6,483.21 in premium. The dividends here for the month are $512.20. And with the reinvestment of our premium here, we didn't add additional capital into this account, but we generated roughly $7,000 of cash, right? So we purchased 12.292 shares of the S&P 500. So in total, we were able to reinvest roughly $5,166.98. So we didn't add any new money into the account. So everything here that we purchased the new shares with was just money that we collected through options and premium and dividends, and then we had reinvested it. So we can see here that that dividend of $512.20 purchased one share and two tenths of a share or 1/5 of a share right there. So that was pretty interesting. So jumping into now our IRA. Yes, I want to keep logged in. Yes, I want to keep logged in. So jumping now over into the IRA. So let's go ahead and swap down to the IRA. And the IRA is a much smaller account here, so we're not going to have a whole lot of activity versus the taxable. That's our largest account out there. In the month of ending in March, our tattooed shares options that expired, I was able to keep all that premium. Doesn't really matter. So nothing really happens here up until March 28th. I go ahead and sell an option for Tattooed Chef for 10 cents a contract. I collected $37.39. Doesn't really count towards April, right? But here's where the contract expired. So this is kind of, that $37.39. I didn't include it here as the premium for the month of April. But then because the option had expired, I was able to rewrite the contract. So I sold 4 contracts at a strike price of $12.50. I collected $169.39 of premium, and then immediately say, hey, I sold these contracts on this company. The company itself had dropped down to, it's $7 right now. At the time it was $9.94. I basically picked up 2/5 of what I need. If I continue to sell premium and say I buy another 100 shares just with premium alone, that would be amazing. That's kind of, I forgot how many shares I initially started with, and I've been kind of selling premium on Tattooed Chef for quite a while now, or options. So I've been collecting premium on them for quite a while. So I did just take the premium and just repurchase the company with it. And then VTI here, I continue to purchase one more share of VTI just with some extra capital I had lying in the account. This is where I kind of had an idea that I want to liquidate some of my positions because I want to build up my VTI position up to 100 shares within the IRA. Now, the IRA isn't an account that I fund at all anymore. I mainly focus on my Roth IRA and my taxable account. My Roth IRA was already fully funded this year, and that's going to be my primary focus until I can't invest in that account. And then the IRA is just going to be used as the potentially backup. It's where my old 401k rolled into. It's where my thrift savings plan rolled into, and it just has accumulated capital in there. So I decided, I'm going to go ahead and liquidate my Abbott shares. I liquidated them out, sold them at $117.15. I took the equity from those sale of $10.54, which is kind of in here, right? I think I labeled it right there. I completely reinvested it into VTI, purchased 5 shares of VTI, and then I sold my VU at $392.51. Took the $15,700 and immediately turned around and purchased 19 shares of VTI at $210.20, and then purchased another 74 shares at $210. I believe right now VTI is trading at $206. Yeah, $206. So I had purchased it right around, on the downtrend. I didn't quite get the bottom right on the day, but I did get a pretty good buy. I'm not trying to time it and trying to get the absolute bottom. I'm just trying to average in, and 210 is not a bad price. And then Apple, VU, right? It's at $392. So if I go look at VU, where is VU trading at? I sold it at $392. Yeah, so I had sold it up here near the top of the day, and glad I didn't sell it. I sold it a little bit early on versus where I kind of returned and purchased all my VTI shares. And then Apple, I sold that at Apple at $160. I don't know what Apple's trading at now. It may have bounced back. Oh, it's at $157. Yeah, I did a lot of my sales early on in the morning, and then I was kind of watching the market kind of dip down, and then I decided, hey, I'm going to go ahead and repurchase my VTI. So then I repurchased VTI towards the end of the day there, and just kind of collected my 100 shares of VTI. I don't have any open contracts on VTI within my IRA. I think that's something I'm going to go ahead and do here in the month of May. Just open a contract. I may get a couple $100 from that, and then may potentially be able to buy 1 additional shares of VTI. That's sort of my thing right now. Because the IRA doesn't get new capital invested into it, anything that I have in it is just going to be used to try and collect premium, which I can buy back more shares within the account. It's like a self-sustaining account now at this point. So that is the IRA. And then we jump over to now. Yeah, we had no additional funds inside the IRA. And yeah, we sold out $2,756.39, and we reinvested $19,914.64. So we still have about, some money in there kind of wiggling around that's able to be reinvested, or potentially something along those lines. Okay, at this point, we're going to go ahead and be jumping down into the Roth IRA account. So Roth IRA right here, we're going to go ahead and start near the bottom once again. I'm going to go ahead and start here in March of 2022 because we did make a sale of VTI. So we sold 1 contract on VTI, collected $204.34 in premium. I had received a dividend. I don't count these towards the month of April, so I'm not including them here in my dividends. I just kind of write them into my options here. That way, when we close it out here, we repurchase that option here. So I had sold it for $204.34. I closed out that position. I paid $27.65 to close out that contract. I netted $176.69. Then I also had sold JEPI somewhere in there, I believe. Yeah, right here. So prior to selling out JEPI, I went ahead and resold the contract on VTI with a strike price of $225. So here my strike price was at $430 because the share price had dropped on VTI. Remember, VTI right now is $210, $207, right? So at the time, VTI had been trading in the 220s, and it had begun to pull back. So I repurchased it pretty cheaply. Again, I paid $27 to repurchase my shares. Then I went ahead and sold the contract with a strike price of $225. I collected $575.34 in premium. I took JEPI here and I completely sold out of JEPI right there. I collected, on the sale, I put $123.63 back into my account. I took the equity and bought 1 share of VTI, $219.35. Began to kind of escalate down to the downwards right here. You can kind of see it really quickly. VTI bought at $219.35. VTI bought it at $216.54. I purchased my VTI contract back for $96.65 right there. I sold it for $575.34, purchased it back for $96.65. I netted $478.69. Then I went ahead and bought 5 additional shares of VTI at $212. So here we went from $219, $216, $212. I resold the contract here for $220. I'm continuously dropping. I dropped the strike price from $230 to $225 to now it's at $220 right here. So now it's at $220 strike price, and the share price right now was at $411 actually. I purchased 2 additional shares at $211. I began to kind of hover in that $210, $211. I purchased 2 additional shares at $211.77. I dropped below $210. I purchased 1 additional share at $209.93. And then I had that equity right, so I purchased 2 additional shares at $211.31. So this is the Roth IRA. This is the one that had capital in it. I had funded it last month with $6,000. So it's just capital that's in the account. I want to have it invested. So here we actually made quite a bit of buys right in this account. So in March, we sold the option for $204.34, closed it out for $27.65, netted $176.69, resold at a strike price of $225, netted $575.34, closed it out pretty early as it was dropping below 220s, netted $478.69, and then I resold it with a strike price of $220, netted $361.34. for a total premium in the Roth IRA of $1,016.72. We did have JEPI in here pay out a dividend somewhere. I may have skipped over that just because it was so tiny right there. No, right here. In the month of April, we had 1 dividend within the Roth IRA. We made a whopping $1.18 in dividends. Bam. So JEPI here, we completely sold out of those shares. After that, meaningful dividend. We had cash on hand of 123.63. We purchased a bunch of shares of ETI. You can kind of see how the share price dropped. We purchased it at 219, 216, 212, 211, 211, 209, and back at 211. So we did sell out of $123.63 worth of shares. We made a premium of 116.72 plus capital that we had in the account, and we were able to reinvest $3,192.76 back into VTI. So that's kind of where we have now. I think we have over 100 shares of VTI within the Roth IRA now. Actually, yeah, we have well over 100 shares, right? That's because I've been able to use that to sell premium. That's how I've been able to buy 1 or 2 shares. And I'm going to keep doing that. That's kind of why I focus my next focus on my IRA and get 100 shares of VTI. Because if I have 100 shares of VTI, I can begin to do options within there too and generate an extra $200 to $500 a month just with the shares of VTI within that account. So it's kind of like my focus at the moment. So we had quite a bit in April total premium, right? We collected nearly $8,000 in premium alone. Our dividends were mostly from the S&P 500 right there. It was $512, I believe, in dividends that we received. Yeah, $512.20 in dividends for the quarter. And that was all mostly reinvested. So we started the month of March at 436, 229. So I'm going to go ahead and just use that. And my difference there of equity, I lost $17,669 within this account in the month of March, which is pretty crazy. In the month of April, and that is pretty crazy, but we're only down roughly 7.47% from last month. And that's actually not that bad. Whereas some of the other indexes out there, we're still doing better than them. Our S&P 500 and look at the markets and just kind of look at how these performed for the month. We did pretty good. You know, we kind of scathed away from taking as many losses versus the S&P down 8.81 or 8.8. The Dow Jones is down 4.91, so they did pretty well, right? And the NASDAQ down 13.26%. So our portfolio being down roughly 7.47 or less potentially, depending on, you know, if you want to take this amount that we had versus this amount that we have. I don't know. But overall, I believe that the option is definitely helping. It's definitely being able to reinvest, you know, create equity within the account. We generated 12 additional shares of SPY that we wouldn't otherwise have. So when the market does recover, and it will over time, just I don't know when it will happen. It'll just happen either this year, next year, some years later from now. We'll just be accumulating additional shares of the S&P 500. And by then, we'll surely have over 400 shares of SPY. That's sort of my focus right now. If I can make 10 to 12 shares of SPY, that's probably not going to happen on a month-to-month basis. But we're not too far away from where we want to be. I want to be at 400 shares of the S&P 500, and we're very close. If I can get another 12 shares, 13 shares of SPY within the month of May, I would have my 400 shares of the S&P 500. And we're only down 5.87% overall. So that's nothing bad right there. And yeah, this account, I didn't really fully fund the Merrill Edge account up until last year. So a lot of these holdings are kind of fresh just because I transferred equity into these accounts or transferred from my thrift savings plan or transferred from M1 Finance. And the value in here kind of reset as I had transferred equity from my other accounts into this account. So overall, I'm still up net wise from where I was like years ago. But just kind of looking at the numbers, it's always a little bit scary for new people, right? But that is going to be it for this video. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys are doing in the market. You guys enjoy the transparency of this account. Let me know how many, how much options you guys collected in the month of April. And that is it. Appreciate everyone tuning in today. And again, if you guys haven't checked out my other videos, definitely head over to my channel. You know, you guys are on my channel. click on my name, click on there, subscribe, follow along, check out some of my other videos, and let me know down in the comment section below what you buying. Okay, have a great day. Bye-bye.